It is indeed a privilege for me to be talking to you today on a very contemporary topic, that is the higher direction of war. We are all aware that military history is replete with examples where efficient defense management and clear and unambiguous higher direction of war have facilitated formations to achieve decisive victory. And indeed, the 1971 Indo-Pak War is one such shining example, which students of military history stand much to learn today. The 71 Indo-Pak War was indeed a landmark event which altered the geography of South Asian subcontinent. This event has been a monumental milestone not only for India and Bangladesh, but also an eventful year for South Asia and global geopolitics. In a span of just 14 days, a war was successfully concluded and a sovereign nation, Bangladesh, was born with its liberation from Pakistan rule. In fact, as the Raksha Mantri alluded, the 1971 war, as it was executed in the Eastern Theatre, was a clear example of how jointmanship through the synergized application of operational strategy by General Jagjit Arora, Vice Admiral Dewan and Air Marshal Krishnan conducted a blitzkrieg operation and achieved decisive victory with the resources that were made available to them. And the initial stages of having achieved success in this battle, the resources were thereafter diverted to the Western Front, where again the same resources were utilized in the battles of Longewala, in Cham, and in the Sialkot sectors, where again the Indian armed forces were in some cases able to stymie Pakistani attacks, in other cases once again achieve success on land, air and at sea. India faces a myriad of external security challenges with deep regional interlinkages, marred by legacy unresolved boundary disputes, culture of competition and challenge to undermining India's strategic space. We are also witnessing geostrategic competition in the Indo-Pacific, including a race for strategic bases in the Indian Ocean region and increasing militarization of the belt and road outposts in the region by our northern adversary China. Most worrisome are China's technological advances in the spheres of cyber and space domain, which often transcend beyond the military to include critical national infrastructure as well. And the recent incidents on the northern borders, along with aggressive posturing, will remain a cornerstone of China's expansionist foreign policy, of which we have to always be wary about. Pakistan's continued sponsoring of cross-border terrorism, a vicious anti-India rhetoric on social media, and efforts to create social disharmony within India makes the trust gap between India and Pakistan appear to be unbridgeable. Therefore, with this as the backdrop, the origins of India's higher defense organization can be traced to our independence in 1947, when Lord Louis Mountbatten and a Chief of Staff, Lord Lionel Ismay, recommended a pragmatic system which was based on a Commander-in-Chief for the operational management and administration of each service and a Chiefs of Staff Committee for central coordination. The Chiefs of Staff Committee was to be supported by a series of other committees to address details of coordination between the services and between the services and our ministry. The Higher Defence Organization of India has been witnessing incremental reforms. In the aftermath of the Kargil War, Headquarters Integrated Defence Staff, the Andaman and Nicobar Command and the Strategic Forces Command were raised. This has been followed by more recent raising of the functional divisions for cyber, space and special operations, a necessity that has long been felt. Lessons from the 1971 war, the Kargil Review Committee report and group of ministers in the year 2000 highlighted the need for review and the national security systems in their entirety. Included the need for the MOD to be restructured and strengthened through changes in organizations, procedures and processes. These also recommended appointment of the Chief of the Defence Staff, essential to achieve synergy between our services. Thereafter, the committee of experts headed by Lieutenant General D.B. Shekhar, retired, also highlighted the imperative need for our armed forces to adopt the integrated theatre command system, and subsequently in the year 2017, Honorable Raksha Mantri accorded in principle approval to implement the recommendations of the Shekhar Committee on theaterization, and our current Raksha Mantri has been taking this process forward in real earnest. This transformation will foster inter-services jointness in terms of budgeting, equipment purchases, training, joint doctrine and planning of military operations, an imperative for modern day warfare. The raising of the Department of Military Affairs is a precursor to an integrated Ministry of Defence with cross-pollination of service officers and civilian bureaucracy. Reform and revitalization of the defence sector calls for a holistic and integrated planning, military modernization, effective force posturing, synergy with industry, and on self-reliance. This restructuring of the Ministry of Defence gives us an opportunity to embrace forward-looking strategies to seize and exploit the moment and set in motion a dynamic transformation process. The theme for today's address also includes the derivation of aims and objectives. Our national security establishment derives its overall guidance and in turn these aims and objectives from the following apex documents. Firstly, though India does not have a formally published national security strategy, the constructs of national security have been articulated in the end, ways and means blueprint. Takeaways have been factored in our doctrines and policies for arriving at long-term integrated roadmaps for developing capabilities as well as capacities, supporting our security needs and simultaneously increasing our effectiveness. The National Defence Strategy is another keystone document and is in the process of being reviewed by the Defence Planning Committee under the aegis of our Raksha Mantri. In addition, the Raksha Mantri's operational directive is a strategic planning, defence planning guidance for building up of military capabilities and capacities. This operational directive is updated and reviewed on a periodic basis to provide overarching politico-military direction in the extent and emerging security scenarios that our country faces from time to time. Coming now to the transformation, restructuring and resource optimization that is the need of the hour. In the emerging security paradigm, India's security would be maintained not as heretofore on the IB, LC or the LAC alone, but in the strategic space of the extended neighborhood and the strategic frontier. The armed forces should be structured in a manner that they provide the operational flexibility to pursue wider strategic objectives. Swift and concerted response by the three services with quick decision making is a prerequisite for modern day warfare, the framework of which needs to be in place with a joint and integrated command and control structure to direct operations. The way forward is thus jointness, integration, and modernization in line with the changing security environment and utmost optimization of resources, generating greater combat effectiveness. Coming down now to the creation of the commands, theatre commands, the identification of regions of military concern and designation of theatre commands will be based on tasks, threats, opportunities, and assets with the three services to address our adversaries. We are moving towards a maritime theatre command, a joint air defence structure, and land-centric integrated theatre commands for our land borders. While we have extensively studied the theatre commands models of various countries to include the United States, United Kingdom, Russia, and China to adopt some of their best practices, the model that which we will adopt will be with Indian characteristics and tailor-made to meet our national security requirements. To ensure greater synergy, redundancy in decision-making and ownership and implementation of operational issues, theaterization in Indian context is likely to have the service chiefs retain operational control through the Chiefs of Staff Committee, and with the theatre commanders would conjointly provide unity of command, while the service headquarters and the component commanders would provide the unity of effort. The concept of theaterization is being progressed on a consensus-based approach wherein detailed discussion and deliberations at various levels, including apex level committees, service headquarters, and regional commands, are being conducted to arrive at the best fit solutions in our context. We are presently in advanced stages of firming up the contours of the structures and processes required for this very important transformation. The broad organization and structure of theatre commands will be deliberated upon in detail by the nominated commanders-in-chiefs from respective services, tasked to raise headquarters of the theatres/joint commands. After the proposal has been finalized and examined by the Chiefs of Staff Committee, the theatre/joint commands will be operationalized on the orders of the government. Simultaneously with this, the creation of integrated theatre commands must be supplemented with appropriate structures at the highest level for strategic planning, processing, examining, and coordinating operational aspects, as well as support to the Chiefs of Staff Committee. The existing joint structures at headquarters integrated defence staff also need to be integrated and augmented to handle joint operation and joint logistic aspects of integrated theatre commands. Toward the same, a study has been ordered and is being processed by headquarters IDS. We also need to focus on some of the specialized domains that will have to be structured into these theatre commands, and these are the cyber attacks, which are likely to pose a threat to critical information structure, and the disinformation campaign in the social media increasingly aligned to subvert minds. Today, the digital economy of India comprises 14 to 15% of the total economy and needs protection against cyber crimes. Cyber, therefore, needs to be given desired impetus if we are to ensure our capabilities remain intact and are not affected by disruptive technologies through cyber crimes. Trend analysis suggests that forces in the future will have to be smaller, faster, and lethal, relying on low observable technology supported by electronic warfare measures, having a mix of manned and unmanned platforms, and ready to be integrated into a sophisticated network. Our future inductions must aim at introducing new disruptive technologies such as artificial intelligence, big data analysis, quantum computing, hypersonic weapons, robotics, nanotechnology, autonomous unmanned system, means for manipulation of social media, and directed energy weapons to remain qualitatively ahead of our adversaries. While these technologies are constantly reshaping the contours of the threat, they provide us an opportunity to acquire new enabling military capabilities for strategic advantage. Now, ladies and gentlemen, management of the data in the artificial intelligence is critical in all areas of gathering, curation, storage, and protection of sources. There must be very detailed and appropriate policy on its storage, regulation, and laws that define access control. In most cases, artificial intelligence applications will need senior leadership to accept responsibility and accountability for its integrity. It is a myth that AI will replace humans. Artificial intelligence applications allow for machine data interpretation and free humans for the higher level tasks. While new technologies like AI free humans from mundane and regular tasks, they also allow them to pursue higher goals. The human supervisory control systems will always be part of the command chains. When it comes to the aspect of artificial intelligence for soft power, we must acknowledge the fact that most of the threats in cyber world or real world come through information. Most of the technologies are now publicly available to everyone. But the one who can realize its true potential and put the tools to clever use is the one who is going to win. It is very much possible that India becomes the next artificial intelligence superpower through zealous innovation and consistent research and development in the technology front. Intelligent leaders are working to stay ahead of global AI powers like China, Israel, USA, Iraq, and North Korea, and to change the way they make decisions based on data. The absolute quantity of available information would be impossible for human beings to process without technological assistance of data analysis tools and AI-assisted systems. Coming now to the capacity and capability building issues. Credibility emanates from capability and capacity. And if we have to create credible deterrence, then there must be the political will and the wherewithal available to the military to execute that will. Towards this, we have set for ourselves a roadmap of a holistic approach of capability development and force structuring for a modernized force primed to meet emerging and future challenges. A dynamic transformation process has been set in motion to evolve structures for enhanced effectiveness and responsiveness. We also need to see through our procurement process, which is now being streamlined at a rapid pace. We now have a new DAP 2020, which has addressed all the challenges to ensure that the procurement process becomes smoother. And therefore, as far as defense procurements are concerned, efforts towards streamlining the processes and structures for optimal and most efficient management of the allotted budget are being undertaken. We understand the importance of indigenization to achieve self-reliance in equipping our forces. And finally, gentlemen, in conclusion, I would say that the global security environment and its impact on India's defense and security comprises numerous seamlessly interconnected issues. India's national security landscape is stressed on account of contours of emerging security scenario ranging from sub-conventional threats to plausible conflict of a 2.5 front dimension. The need to address consequences of instability and volatility in part of the immediate and extended neighborhood remains a key priority. These challenges and threats in turn demand distinct command structures for the Indian Armed Forces, which involves tri-services cooperation and capabilities. India has rightly felt that as a developing nation, its priorities and security challenges make it essential that it pursues policies that best suit its long-term interests. Militarily, this has translated into building capabilities over long term with a greater thrust on indigenization to counter the future threats as well as address the requirements to meet our future aspirations. Though these augur unique challenges, yet we stand as a confident, articulate and rising nation willing to claim a rightful place in the comity of nation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. With that, I conclude and Jai Hind.
नमस्कार, मैं हूं मानक गुप्ता। अगर आपको हमारा ये वीडियो पसंद आया हो तो इसे लाइक और शेयर जरूर करें और हां, हमें सब्सक्राइब और फॉलो करना ना भूलें ताकि आप देश और दुनिया की कोई खबर मिस ना करें। तो जुड़े रहिए हमारे साथ और देखते रहिए न्यूज़ 24।